is the 13th of December 2020. It's a Sunday. We've been cultivating the practice of chanting in order to make our minds better, to develop our hearts. And this is a form of merit. And so there are 10 different kinds of merit. There's the merit that we produce through generosity. And how do we do that? And how does that feel? Well, if people have a lot of wealth, but they keep more than what's necessary for them to live their lives comfortably, then that can produce a lot of clinging and a lot of attachment and worry, that their minds become tied up with that wealth and with material things. And this is something that we need to be cautious about. It's dangerous, the mind that has this clinging. And really, all of us, we want to escape from danger, but it's this attachment that pulls us into danger, because it's what will take us to a bad birth. So there's a story of a monk who had delight in one of his robes, just one of them. And when he died, he became an insect, a lice, in that robe. We hear about people who have buried their wealth, and then when they pass away, they are reborn as an animal or as a spirit that guards that wealth. Or perhaps if we are very attached to our children, we're very concerned about them, then we may get born as an animal close by to them. So we need to be cautious. And there's also a story of a monk who, while he was eating, a chicken called out. And so he looked at that chicken, and his mind was already born into that chicken. So our sense of restraint and composure is something that is important. So our giving of charity is one way of making and developing merit. It's what allows our minds to become very contented, at ease and happy. And those people who offer food on a daily basis, come to the monastery and give food to the monks on alms round. Or maybe people who offer land or offer Buddha images. These are people who are very happy, very joyful people. Their hearts feel full. And this fullness allows the heart to gather together into a state of samadhi. And the samadhi is also a very meritorious state. And so it's not just the people who give who benefit, but it's also those who receive. They feel happy as well. And so if we give to someone who's really hard off, a homeless person, for instance, then they receive benefit and they're happy, and we are joyful in their happiness. Or perhaps these days with the taxi drivers being in quite a difficult situation, we may give them a tip. And they can be really overjoyed by that. Perhaps they don't even believe it. They don't believe what they're seeing. They didn't think that they would meet with such a good thing on this day. So a higher form of merit is that of determining the precepts. And oftentimes those people who are generous will take on this practice as well. And they'll determine the 5 precepts, or on the special days, the 8 precepts. And this is also a way of bringing about an inner sense of fullness, of contentment through caring for our virtue. So there are people who are really intent on making merit, and they think that if they get very wealthy, then they'll just use that money to give it away, to be charitable. Because they've seen the benefits of sacrificing, and they've seen the harm that comes from accumulating things and from clinging onto things. And they know that there's no benefit that comes from just hoarding things up in this world, because our wealth, it doesn't last a long time. Sankharas are constant and unstable, and we need to die for sure. So when the mind is able to think thoughts like this, it shows that we've understood the nature of this world to a degree. We've seen into impermanence, into inconstancy, that these things are unreliable. So we understand that sila is the means of bringing our mind, our bodies and our speech to peace. And this allows our lives to be free from chaos because we're caring for our precepts. So there's the 5 precepts, there's the 8 precepts, the 227 precepts. And each level of these gives us huge amounts of benefit. Because the practice of sila is the very foundation for seeing into the Dhamma. The sila develops into samadhi and also into wisdom. And so this takes us to the next level of merit, which is that of bhavana, of cultivation. And essentially what this means is peace of mind. Because we can see that there are many people who are generous, but their hearts are still very much involved with greed, hatred and delusion. Even though they're generous, even though they care for their sila, their bodies and their speech are very calm, but their minds are not calm. And so we do need to train these hearts of ours. And this training of the citta to become peaceful is what we call engaging in kammatthana. So this putting our minds onto a meditation object and trying to keep them there. And this is another form of merit. So there's the peace that comes from generosity, the calm that comes from virtue. And this is merit. And then when we recollect that merit that we have made, our hearts feel very full. And this is another form of merit, the merit of bhavana, and also the merit of samadhi. So we try to practice in this way throughout the day. Try to cultivate our meditation. And if our minds aren't peaceful, that's because our samadhi is very weak. And so we need to keep them with an object. And perhaps we recollect and recite a chant very often, or whatever posture we're in, whether we're standing, walking, sitting, lying down, we recite Buddha in our hearts and do this very frequently. It's especially important for kammatthana monks, what forest monks are known as in Thailand, kammatthana monks, to have their kammatthana with them, to always be reciting this meditation object. And just as study monks are reciting their Pali that they're learning and looking through the Pali books, so for us we need to be reciting Buddha or Dhamma or Sangha, and just this is enough to bring the heart to peace. So we do need to be able to take our hearts to this peaceful place, to bring them to a point of stillness. Something else that we can try is to see all things as being empty. And perhaps if we try and fix our awareness on a particular object, then we may feel quite tight and tense. So instead we can try placing our awareness onto emptiness and using this as the object of our hearts. and taking Nibbana as the object. And so Nibbana is the state where the mind isn't stirred up or isn't involved with anything. And it's that place of emptiness. And we can use this emptiness as the meditation object. And this can take us very far. We don't need to worry about that. That it can take us to upajjhara samadhi, this neighborhood concentration, when joy arises. And then the mind will just be able to carry on from there. We don't need to worry whether it's going to take us, whether this meditation object will be able to take us further or not. And so the recollection of death, the recollection of our sacrifices, recollection of our practice of dana and sila, and taking these as the object of our minds. And these are all the forms of recollection that the Buddha taught. Or we can recall the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha as the objects of our hearts. Recollect the goodness of the devas, of celestial beings, and use this as a means of developing sati, mindfulness. So when the mind, when we do this, then there'll be some degree of peace. And as we carry on recollecting it, then the calm that we feel internally will grow. And our minds will gather together. And the samadhi, it can come together in just one point in our bodies. So that may be somewhere in our chests or in our forehead or somewhere else in our head. And the mind is very full, it doesn't feel hungry at all. And we feel like food just isn't necessary. We don't want to eat anything because there's this inner satisfaction of the heart. And so that's how we feel when the time comes for this to happen. There's this fullness of heart, there's a goodness that arises through our meditation practice, and through our developing of the kammatthana, of the basis of our work. And so this practice we can do, lay people can do it, anagarikas can do it, monks can do it. What we have to do is think Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and this already is this inner cultivation, this bhavana, something that we should do a lot, should develop a lot, to be training our minds, to always be giving rise to merit inside ourselves. And when this merit comes up, then things will just, the practice will take on a life of its own. And things will happen of their own accord because we see the benefits of it and the mind feels very at ease and at peace. And so we'll just want to help other people out, want to be of benefit to society, because the mind just feels the sense of ease from it. It's not selfish anymore. And the mind becomes quite soft, and it starts being very humble. It's able to bow towards and bow into the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, and also our teachers as well. And because we have seen what they have taught for ourselves and seen it with clarity, we've understood it clearly. And this can make our minds quite soft and malleable, and can turn them into a very benign mind. So when we bring up and develop all these forms of merit, and we see other people or other beings who don't have this opportunity to develop merit or just don't have much merit for themselves, and then we can share the merit that we've created with them. And when we see other people do good deeds, then we express our appreciation of that through this word sadhu. Because they know about goodness, they know how to develop it. They are generous, they have virtue, they listen to the Dhamma. And also whenever any monk gives a Dhamma talk, then we can show our appreciation of that. So through this, the mind feels very calm and very comfortable because it's not jealous. And we can ask ourselves, well, why would we want to be jealous of anyone anyway? Because all hearts, no matter who they belong to, just want happiness. No mind wants suffering, just like us. And so if we see anyone doing anything good, we give our anumodana, we express our joy in their goodness, and wish them success in their wholesome deeds. And through this we train our minds to be joyful and also humble. And this humility is another form of merit. And there's also the merit that comes through our belief in merit itself and also in demerit, in papa. And we can believe this because we have seen it for ourselves to a degree. And so we know that being generous, that being virtuous, and through mental cultivation, that this does bring up merit, because we've seen it within our hearts for ourselves. And so those people who don't believe this, it's easy for them to do a lot of evil deeds, and instead of the peace and the coolness of merit, they instead feel the heat of those unskillful deeds. And so it's the opposite, like this. So both merit and demerit are right here within our hearts. And we need to train our minds to understand kamma and gain a belief in kamma. Train our minds to have right view, sammaditthi. And this is very important, because if we have micca ditthi, if we have wrong view, then everything goes wrong. If we don't believe that there is a next life, then it's very easy to do a lot of unskillful deeds. If we don't believe that there really are good results from our actions, and then it's difficult to do those good actions. And so people who have this wrong view, they can get very deluded and very lost in their own sense of self. So we need to be cautious around our own minds, and we need to train them well. And so this training of the mind is meritorious. So there are these 10 kinds of merit. There's the merit that comes from generosity, from sila, from bhavana, the merit of humility, the merit of helping out, of sharing the merit that we have, of expressing joy in other people's good deeds, or finding joy in their good deeds, and the merit of right view, straightening out our views. These are all meritorious things. So we should look every day into our actions and look back over what the day has been like and ask ourselves, well, which is more, the merit that we have produced or the demerit? And if we have produced more merit, then the chance of us going up to heaven is very high. But if we have produced more demerit, then the chance of us falling down to hell is higher. So we can see which has a greater percentage. And the place to train ourselves in this is within our own minds. So we try to train our minds well, understanding that these minds are a knowing element that have great value, something that we can develop to higher and higher levels, and to the point of complete purity of an arahant, or to a sotapanna, sakadagami, or anagami. But if we produce demerit, evil deeds, then the mind will just fall and fall constantly. And that's not something that any of us want. What we want is a mind of good quality. We want to have good things, we want to have merit, we don't want to have evil. But it's not enough just to wish for these things. And some people want merit, but what they're doing in their lives is producing evil deeds. And in this way, they fall down into hell every single day. And their minds are just full of jealousy. And being jealous is a very agitated inner state. All we want is for ourselves to be good, to be the best. And we don't know how to be humble. So when we see other people do good things, then we should try to give rise to a sense of joy in their goodness, and try to train our minds to do this, to bring up loving kindness and compassion constantly, and for these qualities of metta and karuna to be the foundation, a good foundation for our minds. So we train ourselves like this every single day. And when we wake up in the morning, then we determine that today I will try to train my mind well. I'll try to have kindness and compassion for other people and for animals as well. I won't allow my mind to get caught up in feelings of hate or ill will towards anyone. And this is a very good way of cultivating our minds right from the start of the day. So there's also the merit that comes from listening to the Dhamma as well, reading Dhamma, or perhaps listening through tapes of some of the great teachers. And also if we have come across good things in our lives, then we can let other people know about these, guide other people towards that. Or perhaps a monk may give a Dhamma talk, but really it's not just monks who can teach in this way, lay people can as well. They can let other people know about the Dhamma as well. If we do this, the heart should feel very joyful, and this lets us know that what we are developing is merit. So we train ourselves, our minds like this. We do it a lot, we cultivate it a lot. And this right here is the path that will take us towards Magga, Phala, Nibbana, the path of fruits and Nibbana. And the monks especially have a very good opportunity and have the time to develop this path. So they should be very firm in their efforts on this path. So may all of you every day bring your minds to peace. And may all of you gain an understanding of the Dhamma. And may you be sincere in your practice.